What if time wasn't real? Have you ever had the feeling that the minutes are dragging by, or that the hours are flying by without explanation? What if I told you that this perception isn't just in your head, but rather evidence that time could be an illusion created by your brain? The past, present, and future may not exist as we think. They may just be mental constructions created to give order to a universe where time, in fact, does not exist. Now imagine this. You are standing in a quiet room. Suddenly, the sound of a clock begins to echo in the background. Tick, tack, tick, tack, but something seems wrong. The seconds are not running steadily. The sound speeds up, then slows down until the tick-tack disappears completely. You look around, but the world seems distorted, as if everything is frozen in one frame. You try to move, but your body seems stuck in an invisible lapse. The sense of time disappears, or perhaps it never existed to begin with. If time is just a perception created by the brain, what does that say about reality? Does free will really exist, or are we just following an already defined script? Some scientists believe that time may be just one dimension of the human mind, and the evidence for this may be scarier than you think. Leave it in the comments. Do you think time is real, or just an illusion created by our mind? What if what we call time is just an error in the universe's programming? What if I told you that some evidence suggests this might be more than just a theory? What you will discover in this video could completely change the way you see time and reality. Since the time of Isaac Newton, the idea of time as something constant and absolute has been accepted without question. Newton believed that time was a kind of fixed and unchanging backdrop, where all events in the universe occurred in an orderly and predictable way. Time, in this view, was comparable to a cosmic clock, functioning with infinite precision, independent of any external force or influence. This idea was fundamental to the development of the laws of classical physics, including the principles of Newtonian mechanics, which explained the movement of bodies and the relationship between force, mass, and acceleration. For centuries, this view of linear absolute time remained the foundation of science. Events in the universe were considered inevitable and completely predictable, from the movement of planets to the life cycle of stars. Time flowed steadily, like a river that never changed direction, always flowing from the past to the future. Scientists believed that if we had enough information about the position and speed of every particle in the universe, we could predict the future with absolute accuracy. The idea that time could be a variable or something influenced by external factors was simply unthinkable. But this certainty began to crumble with the discoveries of Albert Einstein at the beginning of the 20th century. The theory of relativity completely changed the way we understand time. Einstein proved that time is not absolute. It is elastic, flexible, and depends directly on two fundamental variables, speed and gravity. If you were traveling at close to the speed of light, time for you would pass more slowly compared to someone standing still on Earth. And it's not just that. In regions of intense gravity, such as near a black hole, time could slow down to the point of almost stopping. This discovery was revolutionary because it destroyed the idea that time is something fixed and unchanging. In Einstein's view, time is a dimension of space-time, a four-dimensional fabric where time and space are interconnected. If space can be curved by the presence of mass, time can also be distorted. This means that time is not a neutral backdrop to events in the universe, but rather an active part of the laws of physics, subject to influences and variations depending on local conditions. Imagine you are in a strong gravitational field, like the one near a black hole. Time for you would pass more slowly compared to someone who was far from this gravitational field. To a distant observer, you would appear to be in slow motion, while to you, time would appear normal. This phenomenon has already been confirmed by experiments using sensitive atomic clocks, which showed that time actually passes differently at different altitudes on Earth due to the influence of gravity. The concept that time can be altered by speed or gravity has raised profound questions about the very nature of reality. If time can be distorted, does it really exist independently, or is it just a consequence of the physical conditions of the universe? If time depends on speed and gravity, can it be considered real, or is it simply an emergent property of a deeper, more complex physical system? This idea also led to the theoretical possibility of time travel. If time is flexible, then perhaps it is possible to manipulate space-time to move forward or backward in the timeline. However, this creates a series of logical paradoxes that challenge our understanding of cause and effect. If you could travel to the past and prevent your own birth, how could you have existed to accomplish that trip in the first place? The implications of these findings are profound because they suggest that time is not an independent or absolute entity. It is shaped by the structure of the universe and the forces acting on it. In other words, time may not be a fundamental feature of reality, but rather a secondary effect of the laws that govern space and matter. And this raises an even more disturbing question. If time is just a consequence of space-time conditions, what would happen if those conditions were altered or destroyed? If time is an emergent property and not a universal constant, it could, in theory, cease to exist under certain extreme circumstances. And this brings us to an even more disturbing question. Did time ever actually exist? Or has it always been an illusion, a mental construct that the human brain uses to organize events and make sense of the chaos of the universe? If time really is an illusion, what does that say about your own existence? Everything you believe about the past, your memories, your choices, and even your future may just be a reflection of something that never really happened. Imagine that you are living in an eternal cycle, repeating the same events without realizing it. If time isn't real, what else could be out of your control? The idea that time can be an illusion is not just fascinating, it's disturbing. Once you start to realize that reality may not be what it seems, it's impossible to go back. Science is revealing truths that could forever change the way we understand the universe and our role in it. And it's exactly these kinds of discoveries that we need to explore more deeply. Leaving a like now is your way of showing that these mysteries need to be investigated. It's your way of supporting the search for answers to questions that challenge our understanding of reality. The more engagement this video gets, the greater the chance of these questions reaching more people who, like you, want to understand what is really happening with time and the universe. What if I told you that some evidence suggests that time may be behaving even stranger on microscopic scales? You'll discover how quantum physics is challenging everything we know about time and why some particles appear to exist outside this dimension. Keep here and find out. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity forever changed the way we understand time. Before Einstein, time was treated as something absolute, which flowed constantly, without being affected by anything. But Einstein revealed that time is relative. It can slow down or speed up depending on two factors, speed and gravity. Imagine you are in a spaceship traveling at the speed of light. To you, time would appear to be running normally, but to someone watching from the outside, you would appear to be moving in slow motion. This phenomenon is known as time dilation and has been confirmed in real experiments with subatomic particles that live longer when they are moving quickly relative to a stationary observer. The relationship between time and gravity has also been proven by experiments with atomic clocks. Clocks installed on orbiting satellites, subject to a weaker gravitational field, work slightly differently compared to clocks on Earth. Scientists need to correct for this difference to ensure accurate functioning of GPS systems. real proof that time is affected by gravity. Time also slows down in regions of intense gravity, such as near a black hole. To an outside observer, someone falling toward a black hole would appear to be slowing down until they stop at the event horizon, the point of no return, but to anyone who was falling, time would appear to pass normally. This discrepancy is proof that time is not a fixed value, but a variable that depends on the physical context. The implication of this is that time is not an isolated entity. It is a dimension of space-time. Space and time form a continuous fabric, and the presence of mass and energy distorts this fabric. This distortion alters the rhythm of time, making it faster or slower depending on gravitational conditions and the speed involved. This discovery opened the door to new insight into the nature of the universe. Time is not something that runs constantly and predictably. It is dynamic and can be influenced by physical factors. This understanding was fundamental to the development of modern physics, including the study of galaxy formation, the life cycle of stars, and the behavior of subatomic particles. The theory of relativity eliminated the idea of a universal and fixed time, replacing it with a model where time is shaped by movement and gravity. This not only redefines how we see the universe, but also suggests that time can be manipulated or even stopped under extreme conditions. The question now is, if time can be bent and distorted, does it really exist as something independent? Or is it just an emergent property of the laws of physics? But what if time is not something that is passing, but something that has already been written? What if the future you haven't yet lived in is already defined, just waiting for your consciousness to catch up? Some scientists believe that time may just be a fixed structure, where past, present, and future already exist at the same time. And the scariest thing, this could mean that your choices aren't really yours. You could just be following a script that's been laid out since the beginning of the universe. The block time theory proposes that time does not flow. It is a fixed dimension where past, present, and future already exist simultaneously. The sensation of movement in time would be just an illusion of consciousness, which would be navigating through this fixed block of events. Instead of time being something in constant creation, it would function like a complete map where all the coordinates are already plotted. You are not creating the future, you just haven't gotten to the position where it is already defined. This idea directly challenges the human perception that we have control over our decisions. If the future already exists, what we call free will may just be a reflection of our position within that time block. You feel like you are making decisions, but in reality, you would just be discovering choices that have already been made. For some philosophical currents, this suggests that destiny is inevitable, and that time is just a static structure, which we are moving through without being able to change the course of events. The scientific basis for this theory comes from Einstein's own relativity. The idea that time is a dimension of space-time suggests that it is already fixed as a structural part of the universe. The four-dimensional structure of space-time indicates that time is not being created in real time. It already exists, and our consciousness just moves through it. This theory also raises questions about the nature of reality. If time is a fixed block, this implies that different consciousnesses can be positioned at different points in that block, experiencing alternative realities or different temporal paths. This opens up the possibility of multiverses, multiple versions of the same universe coexisting at different points on this temporal map. If time is already defined, the beginning and end of the universe would also be written in this block. The Big Bang and the end of the cosmos already exist as fixed events, and we are just at an intermediate point on that timeline, with no real control over what is to come. Think about it. All the decisions you believe you are making now may already be defined at a fixed point on this timeline. The feeling of control may just be a reflection of your position in that time block. But if everything is already mapped out, why do you have the impression that you are choosing something? Now, I want to know what you think about it. Do you believe that the future is already defined, or do you think we have the power to shape it? Is free will real, or just a consequence of the position of our consciousness in time? Leave your opinion in the comments. I want to know how you interpret this idea, and if the future is already written, could the simple fact of you commenting now already be part of that plan? The behavior of time in quantum physics is even stranger than in relativity. At a subatomic level, time is not linear. It functions as a field of possibilities where different states coexist until a measurement defines them. This is explained by superposition principle. Particles such as electrons and photons can exist in multiple states simultaneously. In the famous double slit experiment, particles create an interference pattern, suggesting they are passing through two slits at the same time. But when a measuring device is placed to observe, the behavior changes. The particle chooses a single state, as if the simple act of observing collapses the wave function and defines reality. This probabilistic nature of time at the quantum level conflicts with the fixed model of relativity. In the quantum world, time does not follow a defined direction. It can go backwards, forwards, or even exist outside a conventional timeline. A Wheeler-DeWitt theory suggests that time may not even exist at a quantum level. According to this theory, the universe in its most fundamental state would be timeless, without a defined past, present, or future. Time would just be an emergent illusion that appears when complex systems interact and form an ordered structure. If time is just a consequence of quantum interactions, this suggests that our perception that time is passing may just be a reflection of the way the brain interprets these interactions. What you perceive as now may just be a random point within a quantum system that is collapsing in real time. If time is already defined, that means the future already exists, in which case free will might just be an illusion. Blocked time theory suggests that past, present, and future are already plotted in a block of space-time. In this scenario, what you perceive as a decision would just be a reflection of a path that is already defined. If this is true, the feeling of choice may just be a neurological interpretation. When you decide to turn left instead of right, that decision would already be written on the timeline. You would feel like you were choosing, but in reality, you would just be discovering the outcome of something that has already been determined. But there is an opposing view that suggests that time could be fluid, in which case free will would be real. Some interpretations of quantum physics suggest that the future is not fixed, but rather a series of coexisting possibilities. If every decision you make actually creates a new temporal unfolding, then free will would not only exist, it would be capable of actively shaping reality. The paradox arises when you consider the concept of causality. If the future already exists at some level and is capable of influencing the past, as some quantum experiments suggest, then free will should not be possible. But if time is truly fluid and decisions can create new paths, that would mean that the future is not absolute and free will would be real. Igor Novikov, a Russian physicist, proposed a solution to this paradox through self-consistency conjecture. According to him, even if time travel were possible, the universe would adjust itself to avoid paradoxes. In other words, your actions would already be integrated into the course of time, which would limit real freedom of choice. If the time is fixed, you are just following an already drawn-up itinerary. But if time is fluid, you are actively shaping the future with every decision you make. The question is, do your choices really matter, Or are you just playing a role in a story that has already been written? If time is already written, what does this mean for the future you imagine having? What if free will is just an illusion? This is the kind of question few people dare to ask. But you're already one step ahead. Now, you need to take this discussion further. Share this video with that friend who loves theories about the universe. Let's expand this conversation and bring more curious minds to explore this mystery together. If time did not exist, the universe would be a static state. No movement, no change, no life. But in that case, how do we explain the constant flow of events around us? What if what you perceive as time is just an illusion created to make sense of the chaos? If this is true, everything you believe about your own existence could simply disappear. Look, if time did not exist, the universe as we know it simply could not function. Time is what allows events to happen in sequence, cause and effect. Without it, there would be no movement, transformation, or evolution. Entropy, the principle that makes the universe move towards a state of disorder, is only possible because time exists. Without time, entropy would freeze and the universe would enter a static state. No birth, no death, no change. Gravity, for example, only works because time allows gravitational effects to spread throughout space. Without time, planets would stop orbiting, stars would stop burning, and the universe would become a frozen landscape. Space itself, which is directly connected to time in Einstein's space-time structure, would no longer make sense without time as a coordinate. Without time, particle behavior at the quantum level would also be impossible. The interaction and movement of particles depend on the passage of time so that states are defined and events can occur. Without the temporal variable, the particles would remain in an indefinite state, and the very existence of organized matter would be unfeasible. If time doesn't really exist, what you consider past, present, and future may just be a mental and construct. What you perceive as change and transformation could just be the mind's interpretation of making sense of a static universe. The past and future may not be separate realities, but rather different states coexisting in a timeless reality. But without time, what defines what is real? If there is no temporal sequence, existence itself could just be a collection of static states. A universe where everything is already complete and nothing actually happens. But what if time not only existed, but could also be manipulated? You'll discover how some theories suggest that time can be bent, distorted, and even erased. Are you ready? Manipulating time may seem like science fiction, but physics suggests it's possible, at least in theory. The theory of relativity shows that time is elastic and can be slowed down or accelerated by gravity and speed. If time can be shaped, then, in theory, it could also be bent, which would open up the possibility of time travel. One of the most explored hypotheses to manipulate time is the use of wormholes, theoretical shortcuts that could connect different points in space-time. If it were possible to stabilize a wormhole and create a time difference between its two ends, you could travel to the past or future by going through it. The point is that stabilizing a wormhole would require a type of matter with negative energy, something that has not yet been identified in nature. Another theoretical way to manipulate time involves gravitational singularities. Regions of extreme gravity, such as the interior of a black hole. Near the event horizon of a black hole, time practically stops for an outside observer. If an object managed to cross the event horizon without being destroyed, it could, in theory, access different points in time. But so far, this is just a mathematical possibility, without any experimental confirmation. But manipulating time creates a series of paradoxes. The The most famous is the grandfather paradox. If you went back in time and killed your grandfather before he had children, you would prevent your own birth, which would mean you could never have gone back in time to commit that act. A self-consistency conjecture by Igor Novikov suggests that the universe would adjust itself to avoid contradictions. In this model, even if you went back in time, your actions would already be integrated into the original timeline so that the past could not be altered. The course of events would always adjust to maintain consistency. Another solution to temporal paradoxes is to interpretation of the many worlds. This theory suggests that by traveling to the past and altering an event, you would not be modifying your original timeline. You would be creating a new parallel universe. In this scenario, the grandfather paradox would not exist because you would just be creating a new timeline in a separate universe. Manipulating time at a macroscopic level, however, remains a monumental technical challenge. To bend space-time sufficiently to allow time travel, a type of matter with negative energy would be needed, something that, until now, has not been detected. Furthermore, the risk of gravitational instability and wormhole collapse makes this possibility remote with current knowledge. At the quantum level, however, time manipulation already shows more concrete signs. Experiments suggest that subatomic particles may present retrocausal behavior, that is, effects that occur before the causes that originated them. If this behavior can be extended to macroscopic systems, time manipulation could no longer be just a theoretical hypothesis. If time truly can be manipulated, it would open up unthinkable possibilities for the future of humanity. Time travel, control over historical events, and even the ability to rewrite destiny could become real. The question is, the universe would allow this freedom, or the fabric of reality itself would adjust to maintain the balance? Now I want to hear from you. If time really can be manipulated, what would be the consequences for the universe? Do you think traveling to the past or future could change humanity's destiny? Or would time simply adjust itself to keep everything the same? Comment here on the most insane theory that has ever crossed your mind about temporal manipulation. Who knows, maybe your idea will become the next video on the channel. If time is just an illusion, what does that say about our own existence? If the future is already written, do our choices really matter? Or are we just discovering a path that has already been charted? And if time doesn't really exist, what defines what is real? Science still doesn't have definitive answers, but one thing is certain. What we know about time may only be a fraction of the truth. Maybe time is not a straight line, but rather a tangle of coexisting possibilities. And our consciousness just navigates through it, interpreting fragments of this complex reality. If time can be bent, manipulated, or even erased, what does this mean for the fate of humanity? If the past, present, and future are already happening simultaneously, free will may be an illusion, or a force capable of shaping the very structure of the universe. What you believe about time may be nothing more than a narrative created by your mind to make sense of a universe that operates on a much deeper level than we can imagine. There is much more to be discovered, and this is just the surface of a mystery that could redefine everything we know about reality. And the most interesting thing, we are just beginning this journey. Here, every question leads to a new discovery, and some answers may be even more disturbing than the questions that gave rise to them. So if you're ready to keep exploring the universe's greatest mysteries, be part of this journey. Signing up here is more than watching videos. It's embarking on a search for answers that challenge science and expand the limits of human understanding. Each theory, each discovery takes you beyond what the eyes can see. There's something about time that science still can't explain, and what you've just discovered could be just one piece of a much larger puzzle. a mystery that could hide unimaginable answers about the universe and the nature of reality itself. But there is one detail that almost no one noticed, and this can completely change the way we understand time. If you think you've seen it all, you're wrong. In the next video, you will come across a revelation so profound that it may make you question not only time, but existence itself. Are you ready to go deeper?